Hi, I'm Elisa, and welcome back to my channel and On the Mind Goes, where I talk about mental health and my journey to an official ADHD diagnosis. So thank you for joining me, and I would really appreciate it if you could hit the subscribe button so I can get some followers. Okay, so what I wanted to do today was I kind of thought when I was doing this research to kind of learn more about myself and kind of find my link to autism versus bipolar, what I did is I wrote down like an exhaustive list of all of the traits for bipolar, ADHD, autism, and ADHD. And then I kind of created these diagrams that showed lines that kind of just reflected how closely or how much that particular trait impacted me, so that you could kind of get like a broad, just visual overview quickly to see kind of, oh, she has a lot of ADHD traits, but not so many autism traits, or vice versa. So it was just kind of give like a quick picture of it all. So, anyways, while I was doing that, like I said, my daughter also, struggles with some mental health stuff. And my husband, he has ADHD. And so I created these because I thought it would be helpful. I know when my daughter had testing done, um, after she went over the results, she asked me if I had any questions or if there was anything that I was curious about. And I asked her, I was like, well, what about autism? Because that was something the more I learned, the more, the stereotypical of what in my mind I picture when I think of autism or did picture, I was starting to learn that that was all false and wrong. And so that there is such this spectrum. And so yeah, so I wanted to create, so I just kind of created these charts that have different traits in them. And then I just had my daughter kind of go through. And like I said, I did one for like ADHD and ADHD and autism because I wanted her to then put like the little whatever things on there to sort of just cover up so I could get just a quick overview of, okay, she does have a lot of these traits or she doesn't have a lot of these traits. And I thought that that would help me not only to kind of better understand her and allow her to better understand herself, but it can also be really helpful for when she does go back to see her psychiatrist, or I go see a psychiatrist, or when I see my doctor next week and kind of bring all this stuff up. So what I thought I would kind of do is at first I was going to talk through some of like the traits and just sort of say how I was connected to them, or how they show up in my life. But I think what I wanted to do instead is kind of just talk about hypervigilance, because I've seen that that was something that kind of keeps coming up in different videos that I watch, and that that is something that I guess all of us kind of, you're already, when you feel like you kind of messed up a lot in life, or you're kind of not taken seriously, or any of that kind of stuff, that you start to, whatever I was just talking about, and I forget. Um, this is how my brain works, usually. I will be in the middle of a thought and it will just disappear. And this is why my children get frustrated with my brain and I get frustrated with my brain. Or my husband laughs because he said it's like talking to two different Dories or listening to two Dories, when like either my mom and I talk to each other or my daughter and I talk to each other, because we will both be in the middle of a conversation and just kind of go off wherever. But I just remembered hypervigilance. So for me, hypervigilance was kind of drilled into us. So my dad was he worked in intelligence. And so with that, he kind of always was about um protecting yourself, and he drilled in us, like all these safety things. Like when you walk to your car, you have your keys pointed out, you always check your back seat, you don't hang out in the car, you lock it as soon as you get in. Other things like never take the same route over and over. You need to switch up your routine because people will start to see that that you kind of get into this routine, and then they'll learn your schedule, and then people could like snatch you and all this kind of stuff. So, I think that I'm sure growing up with that level of kind of hypervigilance and always being on the lookout for something to go wrong or someone to not be nice or not trust. I know my dad, he used to get so frustrated with me because he said I was too trusting. And I was, I guess, probably because I know that there's a lot of bad out there, but I also know there's so much good out there and that there's so many people that have so many amazing traits and things inside of them that sometimes, even if they don't seem that good of a person, that you can kind of dig a little bit deeper and really kind of like figure out who that person is beyond that. And, you know, there's always good in there somewhere, right? Um, or I hope. Okay, but so with that, he kind of always had us in a state of like always on the lookout, always looking for something to go wrong. And that kind of translated over to things like being overwhelmed in crowds because, and especially now with like all of the shootings and all of this kind of stuff, like I can't even go to the movie theater without, anytime I go any place, I plan out the exit. So I look around, I look to see what are the ways that I could get out. If someone were to come in, what would I do? It's so funny now that I say all this because I had one of my good friends, Trisina. She used to joke around because she would say that if anyone ever broke into her house, in her head, she would say, "What would Elisa do?" Because I always had all of these plans. Like, my husband was away for a while, and so we had my room, which was pretty dirty. I was kind of messy, and I had my clothes all like piled up in the closet. But in my head, I didn't want to clean up my clothes because I was like, if someone breaks into my house, I can go hide in that pile of clothes and they won't know where I am. I also used to sleep like with my car alarm and all this kind of stuff. That way, if anyone broke in, and of course, I was going to tell my so this is how my brain goes. And I was going to tell my neighbors that, hey, just so you know, I have my car alarm. So if you hear it go off, there might be something going on. So come check on me. But then I was like, what if they're bad people too? So, my dad got in my head with the whole trust no one thing, but whatever. Um, so so that was something that I think I try to kind of pull back a little bit on it, but I suck at it because I know how that kind of made me just sort of grow up in this like continuously constant anxious like survival flight or fight like always kind of being in this hypervigilant state and so that went with everything from walking through a parking lot to anything. And so now my daughter is 14. And so we're trying to like loosen those reins a little bit, give her some freedoms. But I'm like, I don't know how my mom, because she panics like I do, I don't know how she allowed me in high school to kind of like go and venture on my own because we've let our daughter go to like the park or the playground, like not too far away with one of her friends. And still the whole time, like I'll have something where I'm like, something's gonna happen, or like I'll just get a thought and then I'm like, oh no, I had that thought. So something really is gonna happen. And if I don't do, but then I'm like, no, I just need to step back, let her breathe, or I need to breathe and like let her be and do her thing because I know that's good for her. I don't know where, oh yeah, so that's where kind of the hypervigilance because on one hand, I want to raise her like we were kind of raised. I want her to know to always be aware of your surroundings, to pay attention that there are a lot of good people, but there's also not some nice people. And so, as a young girl by herself, when she walks to the playground and stuff, especially she likes to come home when it's like 5:30 or 6, which is getting dark now. But she doesn't understand that because she's like, what? So if I have, because she likes to go with one of her friends who's a boy. And she's like, so when I'm just by myself because I'm a girl, I can't go. And I was like, no, it's not about you being a girl. I was like, if you had another friend with you who was also a girl, that would make me less nervous. I was like, but you are a 14-year-old girl by yourself walking in the dark. I'm like, no, that doesn't work. Um, so so again, on one hand, I want to raise her to like understand all of these fears and all the things that are out there that could hurt her. And on the other hand, I don't want her to like, she already has so much anxiety that I don't want to continue to add to that anxiety. And so it's really like, I don't know what the right answer is. So what else was there to say about that? Um, I don't know. So yeah, I guess I'll end this video here. It'll just be a short one. Because I'm sure there's more stuff, but I'll always have all of these ideas in my head of things that I want to talk about, and I'll make lists and lists and lists. And then I get in front of the camera and I totally forget, or I go off on a tangent, which I used to teach. So I taught middle school science. I taught life science, earth science, space science, and forensic science. And then I taught high school English. And so it was one of those, like, it's funny because when I was especially like a middle school teacher, my students would know that they could get me off on a tangent and we would just kind of like go off and talk about all these random things and kind of go down these rabbit holes. And so they were really good about getting me off topic and I was really good about like doing it. So so yeah, I don't know what that had to do with anything. So I'm going to end it here. And again, follow along, comment, let me know if you also kind of have this hypervigilant state about you that you can't really like tame down, or that you're trying to, or that you struggle with, or anything like that. All right, again, I'm Elisa. Thanks for watching, and I will see you next time. Bye.